Now, days ahead of his inauguration as the US president, the charges against Donald Trump do not seem to end, at least on paper. Special counsel Jack Smith released a report this week on Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Here's what the report states. The through line of all of Mr. Trump's criminal efforts was deceit, knowingly false claims of election fraud, and the evidence shows that Mr. Trump used these lies as a weapon to defeat a federal government function foundational to the United States democratic process, unquote. It also laid out the challenges that investigators faced during investigation, including Trump's assertion of executive privilege to try to block witnesses from providing evidence and using his influence on social media to target witnesses, courts, and prosecutors. Trump, meanwhile, responded by saying that the voters have spoken and that he is totally innocent, while also calling Smith a lame-brain prosecutor. The report, which was released just days before Trump is to return to the White House on the 20th of January, attempts to bring to light the frantic effort that Republicans made to cling to power back in 2020. I had a conversation on this earlier this week. Take a look. You know, Donald Trump isn't wrong when he says that the voters have spoken. I am back to the White House. On 20th January, he'll be inaugurated as the next US president. So why release the report now? Why didn't you release it at that point in time?
So, yeah, I believe there was a judge in Florida had ordered it not to be released. The Trump legal team had been trying to stop the release. And the federal judge in Florida, even though I don't believe she had authority over this report, she had basically asked them not to release it. And then they appealed it up to the Court of Appeals. And the federal Court of Appeals they literally said, we stay it for 3 days until we look at it. And then they said, you can release it. So I believe that's what the delay in time was that Trump was trying to stop it.
Sure, but what impact would it have, even if that is permitted now and Judge Cannon had, not allowed it earlier? What impact would it have it now?
Well, so he was appointed as special counsel for the Justice Department, which is the prosecutors for the American people. And even though he didn't have time because he was appointed too late, he did do an investigation. And normally investigations in America, they're public. If they're done by a police or the feds, they're public information. And even though it didn't get to trial, his report is basically public in the U.S. I don't know how it is in India, but things done by elected officials or appointed officials, prosecutors, that's all public record. So, and the American people wanted to know why he brought these charges, because a lot of people believe there was no basis for it, and he's letting people know there was a basis for it. It just didn't end up in a conviction.
Vibhuti, what many say about this report coming out now, it being released right now, is the fact that perhaps not right now, but a few months down the line, when this entire celebration around Donald Trump winning, slows down a bit, dies down a bit, is when probably Democrats can use this against Donald Trump.
Yeah, you're asking me. Yeah, this is a very, serious situation in America. A country of laws seems to be having real tragedy with laws in this country right now. I have switched from being a Democrat to independent to now Republican. Now, whatever has happened, as they say that, justice is the biggest thing in the world in democracies. But what we are looking at today is that a very great possibility that the Democratic Party or the opponents of Trump insinuated all these things because he was a presidential candidate. Had he not been a presidential candidate on his own statement, none of it would be happening. What would happen to the rule of law then? Whether you are a presidential candidate or not, or whether you are in a political process or not, he ought to have been tried if he has committed a crime. The issue here is very important that, when Jack Smith, who is himself is a very remarkably suspect person in Department of Justice and FBI, he was investigating it, is everybody now knows. And that's why this election was important. Nothing could have done Trump a favor by not winning the election of 2020. It's a political issue, not a justice matter. Even in January 6th insurrection issue, which is all at the bottom of it all, you know now that he was not even given a moment to appear before Jan 6 committee. It is a one-sided report. Anybody who has any amount of sanity left would definitely want to know that in a country that is called a due process of law, the man who is accused was never given a chance to present his side of the story.